because of the intensity of what Jesus says, cut it off. And we understand that he's not speaking literally to cut off our hands. Because we know this, sometimes we just kind of pass by it or we don't take it very seriously. We take it as kind of commonplace, but he is really serious about it. And when he says, the things that cause us to sin, it applies to a lot of different things. Like obviously sinful actions, yes. But also lies that we have believed. For example, we can believe the lie that I am worthless. This can lead me to sin. Or the material things, if they have a hold on me, like stuff, my money, my progress, those sorts of things. Sometimes a relationship, we can be bound in a relationship also and can keep us from God. There's also values that can cause us to sin. Sometimes we preserve, no matter what, my ability to do what I want when I want, or like I kind of worship what others think of me. There are attitudes that can lead us to sin also, like jealousy or the need to be right or the need to be first, or things like unforgiveness and resentment. All of these things, they're like forms of a gangrenous limb or some sort of infected flesh that can make us go septic and can kill us and destroy us. And so this is why Jesus says, whatever that thing is, cut it off and throw it away. So what's amazing is all of the action that happens here, like it sounds very simple, cut it off, but all of the action, this incredible richness and depth actually that is involved in the Lord's healing of us is interior, and so it's hidden. Like we don't see it. We don't see it even sometimes in ourselves, but we certainly have a hard time seeing it in somebody else. But this is where God sees, and this is where God is most often working. So we want to give our attention to what is unseen. So here it is, like to cut something off, to cut off a hand, there's 3 stages that we want to just explain for a minute. There's before, and there's during, and there's after. Okay, before we take Jesus up on his word, there is the thing, whatever it is, and all of us have several of these, and the Lord leads us through our lives. But there's the thing that has to go, that causes us to sin. And the obstacle here at this stage that keeps us from taking the next step, before we do any of the cutting off, the obstacle is fear that tries to get us to do nothing, to tolerate it, to just continue on like normal. Okay, so the move past this is a courageous choice that comes from the grace of God, a courageous choice to actually do something. Okay, that's the move to make before any of this. Okay, then there's the second stage, that is during. This is when the blade touches flesh. And the obstacle here is pain, real pain. Like this hurts to do this. And the pain tries to get us to turn back and to give up before we're finished, before we can't go back anymore. But the obstacle is this pain that we experience when we're actually taking the action. We're having the conversation, making the appointment, throwing in the garbage, whatever it is. To overcome the obstacle of pain, all we have to do is not stop. Maybe we slow down, maybe we were running forward and now we're walking, or maybe we're just taking baby steps. The steps can become very, very small, but the point is that there are still little steps forward until we can hurl away from us what was killing us. And then after we have cut off this thing, and we're in this time of like post-surgery and healing, the obstacle here is discouragement that tries to bring us to hopelessness, that says, all of this was pointless, and now I'll never recover. Now I'll never have a full life because I'm now crippled. So the obstacle here is discouragement that tries to get us to hopelessness, and all we have to do to break through this is to hold still, is to not go back. This is the work of somebody who is in the hospital healing, to rest, to not run away, because this is not the end. This is not the end of healing either. To cut off this thing was just the beginning, and now the healing can begin. But what is so good and important is that the person who is in this place is now no longer getting worse, but they're getting better. They are healing. So the journey to life, and this was like so brief. Last night I talked a little bit longer and in more detail, and then I cut that in half for this morning, and then I was like, man, we got a baptism, so I cut it down some more. That was like super brief, and it's kind of grates on me because I want to say more about all these things. But the journey to life and wholeness is this heroic struggle that is hidden and interior. And with God's grace, the human heart overcomes the obstacle of fear and pain and hopelessness. And it's all hidden, And everyone is in the middle of this. Me and you and the person next to you and everybody here. It brings us, just to look at it like this, it brings us to a place of reverence for the hidden glory of hearts that are being healed by God and made whole. So what we were just doing is a little bit of work to see what is happening in this hidden depth. But all of this is really just a dip into what God sees always. God is always attentive to our hearts. He is always working in these hidden depths and giving us strength and courage and hope so that we can actually overcome these obstacles, because we couldn't take a single step without the grace that he gives us. Having walked through all of that, go back to Jesus' words. When he says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. He doesn't say this in a harsh and dismissive way. He says it like a family member of an addict who is pleading as much as commanding. Come to healing and be made whole. This is destroying you, and I love you, and I don't want to see you destroyed. Cut it off. How does God look at you? Before you take the step and you're in pain? During the cutting off when you are in pain? And after, when you're withstanding discouragement? Like I said, all of this is hidden, but to pay attention to it gives us a place to pay attention to what God is paying attention to. What do you see on his face and in his heart? When we're in the middle and you come to Mass, the God who loves you and who wants to heal you, what words does he want to give you? What refuge will he give your heart here in his home, with his word, with this divine food? And what joy is on his face and in his heart to see the one that he loves on the road to healing. I hope it is helpful to see into a little into the hidden work of healing in us. But most of all, I want you to know how God looks at you and all his sons and daughters who go through this many times in our lives. God, who is our Father, he is with you, and he is pleased with you, and with all your effort. And he looks with compassion and gentleness and love.